Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Blacktop Bootlegs. Today's review, Masters of the Universe Bootlegs. Specifically, we'll be focusing on SPECLATRON. In the early 80s, the Masters of the Universe line was doing incredibly well. Sales were through the roof. The toys had already been bootlegged by Sungold, but in 1984, S&T Sales came up with the SPECLATRON line, which was also released in Italy as Aquaman. I'm not sure if they came up with the concept of glitter-filled characters that have fluid pumping through them, or if it was simply something that was acquired and distributed here in the United States. One of the great things about the Mattel toys were the body sculpts, highly detailed, just a quality level that you didn't really see during that time. Once Sungold created their simple molds, the floodgates were really open and other companies just started cranking these things out. Some of the bootlegs in no particular order: Defender of Planets, Beast Warriors, Ninja Commando, Aquaman, Amicable Herculean, Earth Force, Blazer Force, Fantastic Stars, Wrestling Champs, World Champion Boxer, Warriors of Tomorrow, Turley Gang, Exchangers, Treasures of Those Lost Temple Warriors, Troll Force, African Kings and Conquerors, and Gunman. Taking a look at our first SPECLATRON figure, Hero, you can see we have a nice clean body sculpt and leg sculpts. The limbs were actually taken from wrestling champion figures, and the upper torso is a cleaned up and simplified Masters of the Universe body. The head sculpts are all original, made of soft vinyl, a little flat in profile, but overall pretty nice. A nice kind looking character. Actually looks more like the cartoon than the original Mattel toy. Maybe I'm nuts. Moving on to Attic, you can see we have our foil to Hero. All the characters share the same body sculpt. If you look closely, you can see his wrist guards actually have small stars on them. The head sculpt for Attic is really bizarre. I usually refer to him as Halloween He-Man. He has weird stitches in his face and Dracula teeth. He's very similar to the Hero character, but with slightly off colors, kind of similar to the Faker concept from Masters of the Universe. Moving on to Kandar, you can see we have another kind, heroic character, bright blue color, obviously a good guy. You see the little bumps on the back of his leg. It's really tempting to kind of zip those off, but it's really just kind of a hallmark of the toys. The face sculpt is very soft again, very kind. I'm not sure if this was based on Black Star or Wondar. It really just seems to be an invented character that's supposed to hang out with Hero. And next we have Demon. This is one of my favorite characters in the set just because it's so high contrast with the black and white. The white actually has a little bit of blue in it. The head is actually made of hard plastic for this figure. Overall, a really strong looking face sculpt, potentially based on Beastman. A cool, stoic looking, strong character. And of course we have Deathlore, hugely popular character, really neat colors for this guy, purple and green. He's one of the only characters that's consistently filled with red and blue glitter or purple glitter, really striking, fun color choices. The head sculpt is really interesting. This strange soft skull face, obviously supposed to be a knockoff of Skeletor. Really cool sunken eyes with piercing white dots in the back. Moving on to Orion, later on in the SPECLATRON series they started to box the toys with Panther accessories just to make them more intriguing. Also they switched from normal plastics to these metallic filled plastics. I'm not sure if he's really based on any of the existing Masters of the Universe characters. I thought he looked a little bit like Dragster, a little bit like Dr. Doom because of the rivets in his face. Overall not really based on anything but a new invented character for the series. Moving on, you can see we have a fairly decent carded example of Venom. It's in pretty bad condition, but since these toys are so rare, this is actually quite valuable in its current state. Venom is kind of this weird samurai alien Egyptian hybrid. Overall my least favorite character in the series, but still has a weird mystique about it. The card actually tells people to try using the toy while it's in the package. Unfortunately, I think it caused a lot of them to break. The back of the card is very simple with the character story and character line up there, and of course the hole in the back to test the figure with. What I love about S&T Sales is that they always gave you some kind of story with the figures they were releasing, so that it seemed like they had an existing well-established universe going already, and that you needed to catch up and figure out what the toys were all about. In the 80s, it was very typical for companies like Hasbro to include trading cards and other stuff with their characters so that you could get an idea of who the character was if you weren't familiar with their backstory. The accessories for these characters are actually pretty interesting. The pistol was taken directly from Masters of the Universe without shame. You can see where the plastics injected into the mold is a little different than the Masters of the Universe accessory, but other than that, this is a one-to-one Many Faces knockoff. The other accessories are actually stolen directly from the Galaxy Warriors line. You can see we have a nice sword with a round pommel, and then we also have a nice axe that comes consistently with Attic. Unfortunately, most of the other accessories are just kind of randomly included with figures. You can't really count on the heroes coming with swords and the villains coming with pistols, but the shields are kind of consistent. They always keep the round-centered shield with the villains and the larger V-shaped shields in with the heroes. can see they have very simple clip backs. Also, they were usually molded in that pearlescent silver. While we're on the topic of accessories, I also wanted to talk about Imperial's Dragons, Knights, and Daggers line. Imperial had been making fantasy vinyl for years, so this was right up their alley. Wolves, dragons, and horses with saddles on them. These are actually fairly common, but really cool to have. Taking a look at the articulation for these figures, since the upper torso is actually a bottle, you would think that the articulation would be a little bit limited, but it's actually very similar to the original Masters of the Universe toy. There's a good arm bend, the leg twist is a little awkward, but no worse than the original Masters of the Universe line, and the head turning is a little bit weird because the heads are made of vinyl. The only missing joint is at the waist, and I think it's well worth it for the cool glitter action. Great concept, really fun, and a cool feature that you just don't see on other bootleg toys. Well, that's it for my favorite bootleg SPECLATRON, but while we're on the topic of S&T Sales, I also wanted to talk to you about FLEXATRON. These figures are obviously very similar to the SPECLATRON line with a different gimmick. These are actually rubber figures with wire inside that bend. You can see the faces are almost exactly the same, but they've all been molded in the same flexible rubber. They beefed up the bodies a little bit. It's obviously another version of the Venom character that we saw previously, known as Varric. Again, we have the wild colors. The armor is also very cool and intricate, but also, again, because it's molded in rubber, is very, very delicate. Moving on, we have Devilor, previously known as Demon. The deluxe FLEXATRON figures were also packaged with Panther accessories, very similar to the later release of SPECLATRON toys. The cool thing about these is that they were also bendable and posable. Just a very simple gimmick, but was probably very effective. And then finally we have Hairbone, really cool striking white character with red hair. In the case of the FLEXATRON series, they actually gave you bios of each character on the back of the card. Again, we have the cool skull and crossbone armor, and the iron rivets in the wrist guards and boots are really kind of cool and make the characters feel stronger. Really bizarre color choices on these things, which is what makes them really cool pop culture knockoffs. Overall, just a really fun Masters of the Universe knockoff. Thanks everyone for watching and listening to me ramble about SPECLATRON and FLEXATRON, and as always, stay tuned for more Blacktop Bootlegs.